Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. This is English Digest, and I am Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And today it's our story unit, and we're going to be talking about Greek myths and how they affect modern language. Of course, as you know, Greek civilization and Roman civilization have influenced Western cultures. So, of course, we have lots of references to Greek mythology and Roman mythology in English and probably in other Western languages as well. And yes, these are echoes. Echo. These sort of things that have been left over from those ancient times, and we're still using them today.
Yeah, we have a lot of these phrases in our own language, our everyday common language, but sometimes they're not really directly attached to the original story very much. We're going to find a couple that have kind of changed the meaning since they originally came about, but it's fun to learn. I know I think I was a freshman in high school or freshman in college when I took Greek and Roman mythology, and I had a great teacher. Having a great teacher makes all the difference, but it was so interesting. I wasn't really familiar with the stories until then, and it was fun to find out about some of these crazy people. They have some pretty amazing stories. There are lots of monsters I've discovered.
They're quite creative and imaginative, and they are fun to learn about.
They are fun, but the names are hard to say, so don't think they're easy. Tom and I actually had to review a couple of them because we forgot how to pronounce them too. So don't worry if you think the names are kind of hard to say. They're in the dictionary. They're so common. You can just go to a dictionary and look them up. But we're going to get started by first listening to day one, and then we'll be back. Let's open Pandora's box and give you the Midas touch in our language. Many English phrases derive from Greek mythology, but have you explored the stories behind them? Each expression reveals a tale that enriches our language and echoes with epic adventures. Achilles' heel. This term comes from the story of Achilles, the bravest and mightiest warrior in Greek mythology. When he was an infant, his mother dipped him in the river Styx to render him unbeatable. However, his heel, where she held him, remained vulnerable. It ultimately led to his death during the Trojan War, when the Trojan prince Paris struck it with an arrow. Today, we use Achilles' heel to describe a fatal flaw in someone or something. Trojan horse. This phrase also stems from the tales of the Trojan War. After a decade-long siege, the Greeks constructed a massive wooden horse and pretended to retreat. They offered it as a gift, which the unsuspecting Trojans placed within their city. Concealed inside the wooden horse, Greek soldiers emerged at night, opened the gates, and enabled their army to conquer Troy. Now, a Trojan horse refers to something that appears beneficial but contains hidden dangers. Between Scylla and Charybdis. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus faced a dilemma when he sailed between two sea monsters. Scylla, a six-headed monster living on a cliff, devoured sailors who ventured too close, while Charybdis, located nearby, created a deadly whirlpool. Odysseus had to devise a way to avoid Scylla without his vessel being wrecked by Charybdis. This idiom has a common modern equivalent, between a rock and a hard place, used to describe having to choose between two equally challenging options.
Okay, everybody, it's time for us to talk about the contents of today's lesson. The title is The Echoes of Greek Myths in Modern Language. So, of course, I did talk about the word echo. It's just some kind of sound that's reverberating through a canyon. And, of course, we've got Greek myths that are still heard about in modern language. Again, these are Greek myths. Those are stories from ancient times. Usually we think they're not true. They're a traditional story. And, of course, there are lots of myths in Chinese mythology like Pangu Kai Tian and Hou Yi Shi. Those are myths in Chinese mythology. But here, of course, we're talking about myths that people still know about, and we use these references in modern language.
Yeah, and here we've got this word derive. If something's derived from something else, it just means that's where it originates from. So these come from Greek mythology. Roman mythology is very similar, just different names for the same stories. But you're going to hear some fun stories behind these idioms that we're going to try to teach you today. So each expression reveals a tale, a story that enriches, it makes your language seem more abundant and interesting and charming. And as Tom says, these stories echo with epic adventures. So epic just means a long, big story with lots of adventure and lots of exciting things happening. We're going to talk about some of these phrases which come from Homer's Odyssey, which is a very epic tale. So let's dive into the first one. What is it, Tom?
Well, the first one is entitled Achilles' Heel. Okay, Achilles, of course, is a figure from Greek mythology, which we'll explain in just a second. The word heel here, H-E-E-L, refers to the back part of your foot below the ankle, okay? So, of course, sometimes we know our heels are back there. We might kick them back into the wall or something to make a sound or whatever. And sometimes we might hurt our heels somehow. Don't confuse us with the word heel, H-E-A-L. That means some injured part of your body returns to normal. Oh, I got this cut in my arm and it's going to take about a week to heal. But here, heel is a noun. And as I said, it's the back part of your lower foot.
Or sometimes if you're watching a foreigner who speaks English, command his dog to stop and to stop moving, he'll say heel. And he's using this word, heel. His dog, who has been taught very well by his master, of course, stops walking, hopefully. Most of them don't obey. Ours didn't. Anyway, this is a term that comes from the story of Achilles. And this guy was considered to be the bravest and mightiest warrior in Greek mythology. He was amazing. Well, he had strange powers. I think magical powers is more accurate. If you're a warrior, you're someone who fights in battles and wars. Back then, of course, they didn't have any modern technology. So you had to be good with swords and just ancient weapons, things like that.
Bow and arrow and spears and
javelins,
shields, stuff like that. Some of the old ancient weapons here. And yes, indeed, Achilles was a brave and mighty soldier or warrior. He was the bravest one and the mightiest one in Greek mythology, so no one was braver and mightier than him. And when he was an infant, his mother dipped him in the river Styx to render him unbeatable. Okay, so this is his story here. I think most people know of this story. When he was an infant, just a very small child, his mother wanted to protect him, to give him some sort of armor, so she dipped him in the river Styx. The river Styx is in the underworld. I think there's somebody, a Karen or somebody, that carries dead souls across the river or something like that. But this is a river in the underworld, not in hell, the underworld. It's a different distinction there. But yes, she dipped him into the river Styx because the water of the river Styx had special powers. And she did this to render him unbeatable. So to render just means to make him unbeatable. Render can mean lots of different things, but here it just means to make him unbeatable. He would be invincible.
I wanted to mention a couple of things. I've had some friends ask me, how old is an infant exactly? So I actually looked it up. We consider a newborn, a baby who's just born, 0 to 2 months, to be a newborn. Those are two words that are combined together. So it's one word, newborn. And then after that, from 3 months to a year, they're still considered to be an infant. And then they get into the toddler phase. Toddlers are starting to walk around. And also render, Tom and I were talking about rendering yesterday. I was telling him I was learning how to edit videotapes, which is a new thing for me. And after you finish your clips and the sound that you want and add subtitles, then you have the video that needs to render. You render it. And rendering just means here it integrates all those elements together. But here it just made him. I mean, you could easily substitute the verb made him unbeatable. So that was a pretty magical river, this river Styx, that his mother dipped him in.
Right. There's a little problem, though. However, his heel, where she held him, remained vulnerable. So she dipped him into the water, but she was holding him by the foot there, by the heel, because otherwise she would drop him in the water and he might drown or something. So she held him by his heel, and that part did not get covered by the water of the river Styx, and so it's vulnerable, which means it can be easily attacked.
Ooh, this is dangerous. So because his heel was vulnerable, and you'd think, no big deal, just put your shoes on. How's that going to make you vulnerable?
Or wear a metal boot or something.
Yeah, but this ultimately, or finally, led to his death during the Trojan War, when the Trojan prince named Paris struck his heel with an arrow. And he hit it right where he needed it to go. I don't know if Paris knew that he was vulnerable in his heel. I don't remember that part. But he got lucky, and he struck Achilles in the heel, the bravest and mightiest warrior ever, and was able to get rid of him that way. We're going to hear more about the Trojan War in the next phrase, but for now, we're going to find out what this actually means in today's language, in modern English. What does Achilles heel mean? And let's use it in a couple of examples.
Okay, well, again, Achilles heel means it's a fatal flaw in something. We're always looking for someone's Achilles heel, for example, especially if you're working in business and you're trying to find a flaw with your competition. Yeah, we need to find his Achilles heel. I think the fact that he's really nice to people is his Achilles heel.
Yeah.
We can take advantage of that and destroy him.
Or maybe you are an athlete and you're playing another team. You need to find that team's Achilles heel. Every group, every person, every product, every team, they all have a weakness or a point that isn't as strong or as good as somebody else or something else. And so that's what you're trying to find. So today we are using Achilles heel to describe a fatal flaw in someone or something. Remember, it can be a person or a thing, a product.
Right, and remember, a flaw is like a small problem with something. They used to have these sales in Taipei. They don't seem to have them anymore, but they used to have these storefronts where they're selling clothes that have flaws. They could not sell them overseas because they had some small problem with them, maybe an extra stitch or something wasn't sewn exactly right. And you could buy those clothing items for a very cheap price because they had flaws. I haven't seen them in a long time.
I haven't either.
I got some pretty good deals, especially they always involved export clothing usually. And of course, they always had big sizes. I need like 2XL or 3XL because I'm a big fella. But in any case, back to Achilles heel, it will describe a fatal flaw in something or something, in someone or something. So watch out, and maybe you need to identify your own Achilles heel as well so that you know where people might try to attack you, like if you're a really nice person or if you're not good at basketball or something like that. People may use that against you.
That's really good advice. Someone who has some more good advice is our Chinese teacher. We're going to listen now.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是 Unit2， 这是第一天的课程。这个单元呢有2天的课文内容。那介绍的是6个有趣的英文词语，这些词语背后都是希腊神话的典故。听到这些词语，大家就当作听故事，了解他们神话的背景。重点呢是要学会这些词语在现代英文当中是如何应用的。好，我们一起来看学习重点吧。请看到第一段 Let's open Pandora's box。 好，同学注意到第一句呢其实就运用了有希腊神话典故的用语，让我们打开潘朵拉的盒子。好，那我们来看一下第二个句子，这里动词片语 derive from， 请同学画起来。英文当中呢有很多片语，derive from 是什么意思呢？其实就是告诉我们它有什么样子的来源，源自于，所以有很多的片语呢其实是源自于希腊神话。好，那另外老师补充 originate from O-R-I-G-I-N-A-T-E originate from， 同学也可以注记在旁边。再来请同学看到第3个句子Each expression reveals a tale。 好，那这边呢所指的就是我们刚刚所提到这些具有希腊神话典故的片语。那这些片语背后 reveals a tale， 那都是有一些故事的。这些故事有什么特质呢？我们看到后面的形容词子句，请同学特别注意 enriches 这个动词。好， enrich 是什么意思？其实就是把一些比较有价值或很有趣的东西呢，添加到另外一个东西，让那个东西呢变得很有趣，变得呢很有价值。那所以这里的意思呢，等于是有了这些希腊神话典故的片语，那英文呢就更加的丰富了。那因为 enrich 这个单字很重要，老师另外补充个例句，比方说 reading books enriches our minds。多阅读是件好事，怎么说呢？可以让我们的心灵更丰富。好，那再来呢，请同学看到第二段 Achilles heel 致命的弱点这个部分。好，请同学呢看到第二个句子 When he was an infant。 好，这边是在解释呢所谓的 Achilles heel 到底来源是什么故事。那因为时间的关系，老师简单的带大家看重点。第二个句子讲到说，这个 Achilles 他还很小的时候呢，妈妈把他禁制在这个 River Styx， 也就是冥河当中。什么目的呢？后面的不定词片语可以看得出来 to render him unbeatable， 最主要呢就是希望他所向无敌。 render 这个动词呢其实跟 make 一样，后面加了受词以后，我们再加形容词当做补语，受词补语。好，那请注意第五个句子 Achilles heel 在现代英文当中有什么样子的意思呢？它所指的是某个人他致命的弱点， a fatal flaw， 这个 fatal 就是致命的。
We're going to take a short break now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, guys. This is our story unit, and we're focusing on some Greek myths and how some of these phrases are used in modern language. The first one, of course, was Achilles heel, meaning that someone or something has some sort of flaw that makes them vulnerable to attack. So Tom had some really great advice before the break, and that was you need to discover your own Achilles heel and protect yourself from others attacking you. Or if you're in business, you better know what your product's weaknesses or flaws are that will help you compete better in the marketplace. What's the next one, Tom?
The next one is called Trojan horse, or the Trojan horse. And this phrase also stems from the tales of the Trojan War. Stem from, comes from the tales of the Trojan War. Trojan has to do with the city of Troy, an ancient city. And I believe you probably all know about, what was it, Helen? Was she actually from Troy? And
Helen of Troy.
Yeah, she was beautiful, and she had the face that launched 1,000 ships, so there was a war fought over her.
She was
affection.
beautiful, yeah.
Supposedly she was, so that's why a lot of women choose the name Helen, because if they have the name Helen, it will mean they're really beautiful.
Yes.
But in any case, again, this phrase comes from the tales of the Trojan War. And after a decade-long siege, the Greeks constructed a massive wooden horse and pretended to retreat. So again, this is a war between the Trojans and the Greeks, and there was a decade-long siege, an attack that lasted for 10 years, and the Greeks finally decided to build a massive wooden horse. Okay, it's a big horse made out of wood, and it was huge, it was large, it was massive, and then the Greeks pretended to retreat. So here's this wooden horse, but we're getting out of here because we want to make it look like we're giving up and we're going to let the Trojans win.
I wanted to add something to siege. A siege is when two armies are fighting, right? And one army surrounds the other, and they kind of cut off supplies. They won't let food come in, or more weapons, or more men to, boost their army ranks or their military ranks. And so what happens is the army that's surrounded finally can't hold out anymore, and they have to give up. They have to surrender. So they'd been surrounding Troy for a while, and they were tough, though. They weren't going to give in. And then the Greeks came up with this great plan to construct this massive wooden horse. It's kind of cute. I thought, oh, they're giving them a toy. I just thought it was funny that adult men would be fooled by a toy horse.
Yeah, that was a problem I always thought about this story. Are the Troy people really that stupid?
Are they dumb? Yeah.
Why would they put this wooden horse here? It must be they must be up to no good. There must be some kind of a plan going on here. But well, we're just gonna have to live with the story here.
Tom, I wanted to mention a retreat is often used sometimes to talk about a nice, relaxing place that you go to just chill out. Maybe it's vacation time and you have a mountain retreat that you go to every year. My family would go up to Utah in the mountains, and that was our retreat every year as a noun. But here, retreat just means you're being beaten by your enemy, and so you kind of back away and you want to get out of that place and leave.
Right. When the Americans were attacking various islands like Guadalcanal or Okinawa, the Japanese had to retreat. They had to leave and give up the islands to the Americans. That was, of course, during World War II. So, yes, indeed, the Greeks pretended to retreat. They didn't really retreat. I guess they went off and hid behind some bushes or something like that. And they offered the wooden horse as a gift. Yes, we've been at war, but we still like you. So here's a wooden horse. Enjoy it. Do whatever you want to with it. And the unsuspecting Trojans didn't really know what was going on. The wooden horse was placed within their city, but concealed or hidden inside the wooden horse, there were Greek soldiers, and they emerged at night, or they came out at night. They opened the gates, and this enabled their army to conquer Troy. Their army was able to conquer the city of Troy because the Trojans were fooled.
I was curious where this city actually exists, and in modern day geography, at least, it's now in Turkey.
Right. So
this city is in Turkey, the city of Troy, at least the ancient city of Troy. So these days, in modern language, if you use the phrase Trojan horse, you're referring to something that appears really great or beneficial, but actually is bad. It contains hidden dangers, so you got to watch out. Ooh, that might be a Trojan horse.
Yeah, like that marketing plan of yours is a real Trojan horse. It sounds really good. It's a good idea. It uses a lot of imagination, but there are some serious flaws, and we might actually end up losing money if we use your plan.
Yeah, and if you're on computers, guys, you know that some of these viruses are concealed as Trojan horses. So you might get an email and it tells you, oh, you're going to win some money. Click on this link. And you click on the link and a virus is installed in your computer. And that virus is often referred to as a Trojan horse.
Or ransomware, but that's something else, a topic for another day. And yes, indeed, this is the definition of a Trojan horse. It looks good, but it might have something hidden that could be dangerous. Now let's move on to the next one here. I hope I can pronounce these. Between Scylla and Charybdis. Did I say that right, to Scylla? Is it Scylla or?
No, it's Scylla.
Scylla, okay.
Scylla and Charybdis.
They have really weird spelling in Greek mythology, but it's pronounced Scylla. And then we've got Charybdis. And you may have heard of the ancient Greek epic called the Odyssey. There was also the Iliad, but the Odyssey is another one, and it was written by the poet Homer.
Mm-hmm. So in Homer's Odyssey, that he wrote, Odysseus is a character, and he faces a dilemma, a problem. Ooh, what should I do? So what was his dilemma? He had to sail between two sea monsters. They were really into sea monsters back then, I've noticed. So Scylla is the name of one of the sea monsters. Scylla was pretty awesome, pretty scary. A 6-headed monster living on a cliff. And Scylla would devour sailors who came too close or ventured too close, while Charybdis, another sea monster, was located nearby. And this sea monster would create a deadly whirlpool that would kind of drown you if you got near it.
Oh, no.
So if you devour something, you eat it so quickly, you barely have time to chew. So if you're really hungry, you kind of want to devour your meal. As a joke, we use that. But here it just means to eat something up very quickly. And of course, the monster would be very happy to devour sailors.
Right. So Scylla is a big monster on a cliff. And if you get too close to Scylla, you will be eaten. And then there was Charybdis, which was also nearby. This particular person created a deadly whirlpool. Deadly means you can die from it. Whirlpool, of course, is when water spins between currents, and if you get stuck in a whirlpool, you'll be sucked under. It's kind of like a tornado in the water. And Odysseus had to devise a way to avoid Scylla without his vessel being wrecked by Charybdis. So he had to go in between them. He couldn't get too close to Scylla, or he couldn't get too close to Charybdis, or he would be in big trouble. And of course, he's sailing on the sea, so he's in a vessel. That's the word sometimes we use to refer to a ship. It could be a sea ship, or it could be a space ship, a vessel, a space vessel.
And this word wrecked, to be wrecked means you are destroyed completely. We often will talk about shipwrecks, ships that are destroyed and can no longer sail on the sea. So this was wrecked by Charybdis. So he had to really have some fancy sailing there, I would say. This idiom has a common modern equivalent. Something that's equivalent is equal to something else. And that common idiom today is, oh, I'm between a rock and a hard place. Either choice that you have to make is kind of bad. So it's not a good situation to be between Scylla and Charybdis or to be between a rock and a hard place. So we use this idiom to describe having to choose between two equally challenging or difficult options. This is one that you'll hear quite a bit.
Right, and I should say that I had never really heard anybody use the phrase between Scylla and Charybdis, but I have heard the phrase between a rock and a hard place. That is far more common, so please focus your energy on that if you want to memorize a useful phrase. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
好，我们再看到下一个片语 Trojan Horse。好，很多同学可能对这个词语呢都相当的熟悉，就是呢特洛伊木马。请看到第一个句子，一样有个很重要的动词片语 stems from， 让我们清楚地看出来，原来这个片语跟特洛伊战争有关系。第二个句子讲到特洛伊战争，同学一定要清楚这个字 siege 指的呢当然就是围城，而且呢是很长的一段时间，10年以上的时间。好，再来我们看到第四个句子，请特别注意的是这个呢是分词构句，所以我们看到最刚开始 concealed， 这是一个过去分词，那真正的主词要在逗点后面找，也就是希腊的士兵。希腊的士兵隐藏在这个 conceal 就是隐藏的意思，那他们被隐藏在哪里呢？木马里头。后面 Greek soldiers emerged， 这个 emerge 才是主要动词。那到了夜晚的时候呢，希腊士兵就从这一只大木马里面呢跑出来。所以后来这个特洛伊木马呢，隐含的意思，所表达的意思就是 hidden dangers， 就是潜在的危险。现在很多人都非常的关切这个抖音呢，很多人都会讲说，抖音可能会带来一些危害啊，怎么说呢？那我们就用这个 Trojan Horse 来造个句子跟抖音有关的。TikTok may be the ultimate Trojan horse。那为什么会说抖音可能会是特洛伊木马呢？ It gives people videos they like。 在抖音上面可以看到我们喜欢的这些影片， so they can't stop watching。 那很多人呢一看就停不下来。 It might even change how they think。 那危险就在于这些影片呢可能会改变我们的想法，变成认知作战的工具。好，再来我们看到第四段这里Between Scylla and Charybdis， 这个意思是进退维谷。我们看到第一个句子的 dilemma， 在不定冠词后面的这个名词 dilemma， 或有些人发音是 dilemma 也可以，那所指的就是进退两难的处境。好，再来呢，请同学看到第二个句子，这边讲到原来啊这边Scylla， 那它呢是一个6头的怪物。好，那可是后面的这个 Charybdis 它是属于什么呢？它是一个大的漩涡。好，所以就变成两边呢都非常的危险。那有可能你要躲 Scylla 的时候，后面就会被船只就会被卷进去这个 Charybdis 这个漩涡当中。好，所以请同学注意到第三个句子的 wrecked。那这个 wrecked 一般而言，当我们讲一些交通工具啊， 它因为撞毁、损坏，我们很常看到这个 wrecked 这个单字。那这里所指的当然是船只哦。好，船只呢受到毁损 wrecked。那再来我们看到第4个句子，那这个片语哦，刚刚所讲的这个片语其实有一个比较现代的这种版本，意思是一样的 between a rock and a hard place。好，以上就是我们针对这个单元第1天内容所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
Okay, we're at the end of today's lesson, and please join us again next time because we got some more Greek idioms or expressions from Greek mythology that we use in modern language, and we'll talk about those then in our program next time, so please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
And I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.